How is your confidence right now? Confidence with respect to cracking civil services exam in 24. Good. You must have analyzed mains papers, right? So what did you think? ಏನು ಅನಿಸ್ತು ಮೇನ್ಸ್ ಪೇಪರ್ಸ್ ನೋಡಿ? Yes. Did you analyze? Did you go through all the questions? And were you able to think of some answers to these questions? Mains papers. So it's very easy. If I had got a chance to write mains this year, I would have easily cracked it if I had cleared prelims. That feeling is always there, no? But when it actually comes to real examination, the same confidence won't be there, right? So when we fail, this is another level of confidence, you know. Anyway, I'm not writing mains, so. So looking at the paper, it feels like, you know, it is super easy, right? But you have been practicing for how many months now? 4 months. So 4 months, how many tests you have written? 47 mains tests, including essay tests. Excluding essay test. Okay, how many essay tests? 8. So in essay papers, you might have become already pro, right? Huh? I mean, you're not scared of topics anymore now. So you see the essay paper and then you pick easy topic and then you start writing the essay. So with respect to essay, let us start from essay paper. So through all the 8 essay examinations, what have you learned? So what are the lessons that you have learned, you know, by writing essays? Okay. So earlier she used to attempt only philosophical. Nowadays she is attempting GS topics also. Structuring. Okay. So there is no change in terms of themes in the entire essay paper. So last year in section A, they had introduced, you know, the combination of GS topics disguised as philosophical topics. So they have just shifted it to section B, right? So maybe I had taken a session, I don't know if you remember, in section A, the topics, how the intersection of, there is English literature and, you know, history and, you know, science and history, environment and the first topic was forest, yeah, environment and economics, yeah, right. So here this year they have done is women empowerment and mathematics, and mathematics is the music of reason. Okay, mathematics and philosophy. A society that has more justice is a society that needs less charity. Okay, something related to social justice. This is about society. Education is what remains after one has forgotten, one has learned in school. So this year I think these are more straightforward than last year topics. Right. This is purely on education. This is purely on social justice. One is purely on, you know, women empowerment. So in a way, this year essay topics are easier than actually last year. Thinking is like a game. It does not begin unless there is an opposite team. You are made to write essays on these topics, right? Not it. Okay. But I think we are giving these topics as part of weekly essay challenge on our website. You didn't attempt? Not it. Okay. Thinking is like a game. It does not begin unless there is an opposite team. So what is the meaning of this? Thinking is like a game. It does not begin unless there is an opposite team. Correct, dialectics. Okay. So they're talking about thinking itself. Even yesterday when I was talking about interview session, I was talking about our ability to think. So I was talking about creative thinking, analytical thinking, critical thinking, alternative thinking. So here it says the thinking itself, the very process of thinking itself is like a game. it does not begin. So you won't start thinking unless there is an opposite team, right? So what is opposite team here? Is it some kind of stimulus? Is it some kind of provocation? Hmm? Challenge? Maybe there is a challenge. Something has affected your life. Like for example, so somehow you are surviving in Bangalore. As part of civil service preparation, you are surviving in a way that getting money from some source. Suddenly the money stops coming here. So it will force you to think in many directions. Should I quit preparation? Should I consider a job and parallelly do preparation? Should I go to InsightsIAS and ask for some free course or something, discount or something? Or should I ask a friend for some monetary help? Should I make girlfriend with a rich? Some extreme level, we don't know. Sometimes boys will think like that, right? So it leads to many kinds of thinking, but again you have to ask in this essay, what is the type of thinking, right? Is it emotional thinking? Is it just emotions pouring out, or is there any rational thinking happening, right? So basically these type of essay, if you remember my previous session, I don't know, I had taken in the beginning. So in every essay topics, especially when topics like this come, ensure that there are at least 3 different dimensions. So before the mains examination also I talked about it. One is there should always be a philosophical dimension. Second, psychological dimension, right? So I think I remember I am the first individual in this UPSC, essay guidance who has been stressing on the point that in every essay there should be a psychological dimension, right? So when I say psychological dimension, the concepts of psychology, right? As part of essay preparation, you have to learn concepts from psychology, right? So without learning them, if you are using your own vague understanding of psychology, right? So for example, so certain emotion, right? For that emotion, there is an underlying theory in psychology. There is a name to it in psychology, right? So learning those concepts, introducing them in your essay will fetch you more marks, because you are making an argument based on certain concept, right? Rather than coming up with certain argument without backing, without any justification. So you won't be able to give justification. Justification need not be just an example all the time. Justification can also be a theory, right? Or certain hypothesis, or certain idea proposed by certain psychologist or author or an expert in the specific field. So one, psychological dimension, second one philosophical, third one sociological. So these 3 dimensions form the core of any of these essays, right? Especially in the section B, section A, all the essays. Section B, there is a core related to the specific topic given, and you can link that core to these 3 dimensions, right? But you don't have to force yourself to go with historical, economic, all this rubbish, international, national, right? Understand these 3 dimensions: sociological, psychological, and philosophical. So these 3 dimensions, pick each word. For example, here thinking or thought itself is a keyword, right? So such the philosophical dimension, like what philosophers have actually talked about, the very process of thinking, right? There is a philosophical dimension, and then there is going to be a psychological dimension. So this topic is more like a psychological topic, right? Similarly, sociology, like sociological dimension in the means huh? There is a concept like group think, right? So the concept of group think, everyone thinks similarly in a group, right? There is a herd mentality. So what is the underlying sociological reason, right? So understand the sociological dimensions behind thinking, like how poor man thinks, how rich man thinks, how a woman who is, whose freedoms are curtailed. So what is her thinking? How her thinking is shaped by the circumstances, right? How a child getting educated in a government school thinks and how a child getting educated in international school thinks, right? So just society you divide into different sections and all the sections have different circumstances, right? So see like, how their thinking is shaped by social circumstances. For that also there may be a theory, like in sociology if you have studied, I don't know, in sociology there may be a theory, what shapes thinking of an individual, right? And within society, education system and everything will come, the role of education system in helping an individual think, right? So in fact, the fact is that our education system doesn't make us think creatively. It makes us worry actually, right? Worrying is also thinking, right? So it makes us worry about our future. Yeah, now I am an MBBS graduate. My future is blank, bleak. MBBS graduates actually worry about their future. Forget about graduates of BA, BCom, BSc, especially who has done these kind of courses from, government colleges. So our education system makes us think a lot in a negative direction, right? So that also you can write a comment on that, education as your opposite team here, right? I mean, for this essay. And government, there can be a slight political dimension, but again, without never mention this politically, right? In your essay, don't start your paragraph with, like political and all. The kind of system, like the role of democracy in thinking, making us think, the role of democracy, right? And role of, let us say, like people in Gaza, what is their thinking? People in North Korea, do they think? Are they allowed to think? Huh? So we don't know, right? I mean, they may not be allowed to think because the fear is stopping them to think. They might be so scared that even if we think, like, that thinking may be, going to that, what is the fat fellow? What is he? Kim Jong-un. So him and his sister, and they'll be knowing. So what type of thinking we are doing it, right? You might have read the novel 1984. Anybody read that novel 1984? George Orwell, right? George Orwell, it's a very famous novel. It's a very thin book, 1984, right? So it's about the kind of system North Korea and Russia has today in their country, right? How freedom of individuals is restricted, right? Yeah, another dimension, because I remembered this, there is a fourth compulsory component. So this also, I think I started propagating, like in every essay it should be there. Sorry, I forgot. English literature. Psychology and English literature, these two are most ignored components in UPSC essays. People with English literature background or psychology, they bring it slightly, but they usually neglect it, most of the aspirant, because you haven't touched it, you haven't developed the interest or hobby of reading literature or psychology, right? So you read psychology only when you worry, you will search internet, right? So how to overcome the stress, how to overcome depression, right? So how to deal with anxiety, how to deal with examination fear, how to overcome sleeplessness, right? So all the articles and YouTube videos, but again you don't focus on the concept, you'll focus on the steps, course of action, right? So what do you do with concepts, like when, right? Okay, so English literature, again thematically, so it's a very easy thing, divide into themes, right? Themes based on the keywords. For example, mm, there is a word creativity, right? There is a word inspiration, there is word intuition, there is a word logic, thinking is also a word, decision making is also a word, right? So how are you going to use English literature for these kind of keywords? So when you search these keywords, you won't get the literature, right? So what you need to do, you have to pick classics. So like for example, 50 all-time greatest novels, right? 50 or 100 or even 10. So each novel will have certain characters, right? So one character in one novel will have a strong, it actually represents the value of, let us say, love. It represents the value of logic. That particular character, right? So you give a word, that character actually represents that particular quality or human behavior or human attitude or human value, right? Like decision making. So there can be a character which is known for wrong decision making, all the time. Then suffers disaster after disaster. There is a character, and there is a character which is firm with decision making, then also suffers some tragic, something like that. So there are like interesting characters. Like maybe you can think, for example, you can think of a movie, and many of the movies are based on certain novels, right? Right. I mean, classic Hollywood movies. There is a movie, To Kill a Mockingbird, right? Just example. So you can search, you can go through that movie, watch one or two characters, and you don't have to read novel, search novel, then just read the summary because you have seen the movie, right? You will remember the character and you can quote that character in one of the paragraphs or in the introduction itself, the very first line, right? In a very famous novel, To Kill a Mockingbird, right? Something depending on the which topic you have chosen. So then you can start also. The reason I keep emphasizing on this particular aspect is that as far as I know, out of 100 people, 2 or 3 people will be using such kind of examples in their essays, right? Even after I tell it to 1,000 people, right? Very few people use it because it is not easy to develop interest in that particular aspect. But when you are fighting for a rank, right? When you are in this race, when you are practicing so much, the practice should be distinguished. The practice should be unique, unique to you, and you should develop all the requisite qualities, right? Skills that will distinguish your essay or your answer from the crowd, right? So that effort you need to put. If you're not putting that effort and mechanically coming here, for example, all the 8 essay examinations, I'm 100% sure you wouldn't have prepared for all the 8 essay examinations. For some of them, you would have just come, sat here, thought something and written, right? So that doesn't actually, it won't help you. You will be using the same example in most of the essay. The examples you had used in the first essay test, you will repeat them in another essay test. In the real examination, you will take the same examples, and you don't know that the same example is actually written by. So only when you think a bit extra and go to those resources and which most of the people don't touch, so then you will be able to distinguish. So this is a very important suggestion for you, because that is now what is happening is that now we have seen essay marks this year also. When the marks come out, it will be like maybe 5-10 marks lesser than the last year, the topmost marks. So I saw that there is 80 to 105 bracket. Most of the people who didn't get selected, or though got selected with a very poor rank, their marks were somewhere around 80 to 105. And then there is 130 plus, 130 to 140. I don't think anybody has scored 140 plus, maybe 1 or 2 people this year, right? So there is a gap of 20 to 30 marks, right? So anyone who sees cliched examples, right? Gandhi, Tagore, Buddha, Ashoka, right? Mother Teresa, Angulimala, right? So all your the usual exam. I don't know if you have invented new example now in the gap of 4 months that I was absent here, but so these examples are like very common, right? The moment they see them, you are there. Okay, 90 essay evaluation is done. Hmm? No effort, no extra effort. The candidate that we want into civil services doesn't think, right? So they are just following the herd mentality. They are just picking random things the coaching has given or learned from the topper or something and reproducing it. So lack of effort which is visible in your paper will result in rejection, right? So ensure that you don't fall into that category, right? It's not big deal. I mean, half an hour, 1 hour every day you devote, right? This psychological time and essay paper you have to put extra effort every day or once or twice in a week also. Just half an hour, 1 hour literature. I mentioned George Orwell. So you note down the name and 2 to 3 novels of George Orwell. And in fact, he has written a famous essay, how to make, how one should write, something like you just Google George Orwell on English writing, just search. There is a famous essay by him, Rules for Effective Writing, right? George Orwell, ORV, so ORWELL, George Orwell. So politics and the English language. Never use a metaphor, simile or other figure of speech when you are used to seeing in print. So here they are like, so the rule number 1, never use a metaphor. These are figures of speech. So it is pronounced as simile, SIMILE, or other figure of speech which you are used to seeing in print. Like, the things you see in standard literature or, in news, right? Her smile was as bright as the sun shining on the something like that, right? Such kind of, so it's called metaphor or something. Never use a long word where a short one will do, right? So you don't have to always search for complicated, jargon or bigger word. So if the small can fit into that, if it is possible to cut a word out, always cut it out. So in communication, sometimes some people have habit of using extra words. So if possible, just cut it out, right? Never use the passive where you can use the active. So I was made to come to the class. I came to class. So straight active voice is better than using the passive. It makes your sentence longer also. Gives the same meaning, but it makes your sentence longer. Never use a foreign phrase, a scientific word or a jargon word if you can think of an everyday English equivalent, right? So no need to use a German or French word. Some people just to show off, they also know about that. They use that, right? It's not necessary. Break any of these rules sooner than say anything outright barbarous. So you can just, there is a bigger essay, it's just a summary, right? There is also, like when you want to write essay, so always be ambitious. Usually what you search for essay writing is that UPSC toppers copy, right? Rule number 1, Vinay Kumar's rules. Never search for UPSC toppers, copy for essay writing, right? Read it. If you have got, just discard it. See like, to what extent they have written. Next, see if it is possible to write better essay than what the toppers essay you have actually seen, right? So that is the rule number 1. So you are seeing the toppers copy to write better essay than the toppers essay, not to mimic it, not to copy it, right? So you have to always, whenever you search, always go for the what is the best you can think, when it comes to English literature or essay writing. What is the highest you can think and try to search about it. So what comes to your mind? So I would search how the University of Oxford teaches essay writing, right? So there is a video tutorial, introductions. right? So don't search YouTube, like toppers and coaching institutions. So these are the like highest level, the primary, right? So go to Oxford University, Cambridge. We have Oxford Dictionary, Cambridge Dictionary, right? Written by the topmost experts. So when internet can actually provide you that, right? So you don't have to again copy here. Like just you have to modify it to the UPSC requirement, right? So there will be two academic here. Just see what are the best few elements you can learn from there and put them here, right? How was the ethics paper? Ethics. Did you check? No, it was not as lengthy as last year. This year mains papers were actually easier than last year. All the GS, ethics and essay papers, right? So the purpose of me coming and talking again, it's not about essay and ethics, just to give you, go ahead, guidance, how to balance prelims preparation, right? So how many of you are confident of cracking prelims? Hmm? So first tell me cracking CSAT paper. Hmm? Are you ignoring CSAT or still, are you practicing CSAT or still ignoring it? Hmm? Practicing every day. Hmm? Minimum practice. Maximum out. Okay. So last year again I had floated certain rules for prelims, which I think are very much relevant. One, the writing is very much essential. Okay. So now just because you're in core batch and writing a lot, don't get carried away. So it must be combined with, right? It must be, what is the word? Balanced with at least now we are in the month of November, right? And November, December, January, like we have around 6 months. So in these 6 months, you have to, what mains writing does is that it will give you conceptual clarity, it will give you depth, right? Depth of understanding of the particular topic. But the way prelims papers are set, it's balanced. There are so many factual questions. There are in-depth conceptual questions also. So you will be able to solve the difficult questions in prelims. So you won't be able to solve the easy questions, supposedly easy questions which are factual in nature. It is just like if I had remembered these facts, if you had revised these facts, so you will have that feeling, after looking into those questions. So they come from the basics, the basic parts of each topics and subjects. So my suggestion is that you need to give a high importance to the factual component of whatever you study actually. So that, see, you remember, like, when you write mains answer, if the question is open-ended, like general commentary on Indian society, so how it is shaping up. So you won't give importance to facts. But if the question is very specific to, let us say, literature during the time of Vijayanagar Empire, right? So then you will try to remember 3-4 authors of that time and their works, right? But again, that effort you do only when you face that kind of question. The question pushes you to think in that direction, try to remember. But if you're not looking at those kind of questions, you won't put extra effort to remember those facts. Am I right? So you won't put effort because there is no specific stimulus or direction, to or kind of benefit you are looking at, incentive to remember those facts. So you have to create that kind of stimulus or incentive every day to remember facts parallelly with what you are doing as part of the core batch. So I believe as part of the core batch, whichever answers you are writing, make a list of facts related to them, remember. Second, last 25-year prelim question papers, right? So people have the habit of solving them 2-3 months before prelims or after January. My suggestion, in-depth research of every keyword that is there in past 25-year prelims question papers must be done from now onwards itself. You have to do it. You have to remember every fact. Let us say there are, let us say 100 keywords about Buddhism, right? 100 keywords about Buddhism. It can be about the types of mudras, the literature related to Buddhism, right? The philosophical concepts related to Buddhism, and the names of the people, important people, right, who are associated with Buddhism, or the name of the places associated with the Buddhism. So you make a mind map of all the facts, right? So create a chart or something, memorize it, right? And about every keyword, learn something, maybe one paragraph of content. You got it? So thematically, see, we part of Conquer and Appet, we do it, but doing by yourself is very important. So pick up, so it can be done like, using a question bank which are segregated questions, or it can be done taking, let us say 2020 question paper. So you go through each and every question, but better to do it using segregated questions, right? So that you can align with the core batch timetable. So which topics you are currently dealing with? Okay, after ethics, modern history. So pick up modern history, questions of last 25 years, prelims question papers, right? So for all the modern history questions that are there in prelims, so you prepare these charts. So all the names of female characters, right? Just for that, right? Foreign or Indian, and all the names of male within that segregate. You have capitalists, you have revolutionaries, you have philosophers, thinkers, and writers, right? You have the freedom fighters, you have politicians, you have British important people. So only based on the 25 years. I'm not asking this to be done based on the textbook, because you will have thousands of names. Primarily from the previous year papers, remember each and every name, learn about them. So if there is a question like, I think at least on 2 or 3 occasions we had questions on the role of female freedom fighters in prelims. Match the following type of questions, direct question with 4 names. So you pick all of them and see if there are other additional names you can actually add to the list. So you can search internet, or you can go through the book, standard reference book. So to that you add, so there is a theme, right? So to that you just add extra 1 or 2 names, thinking that if there is a question on the topic, right, with new names, we should be ready for it. So that 10% extra effort should be added to the existing knowledge that is there in the last 25 papers. So that actually streamlines and gives you immense confidence, right? Because every year you see the question paper, it is basically prepared using previous papers as blueprint. There is inevitably there is a question on like Buddhism, or like Jainism, or there is some painting, some architecture, right? So they don't usually go beyond those themes. So you put aside all the previous year question paper, start framing the question paper, it will go random, right? So you cannot decide the proportion, it will become very random, difficult to. So the previous year question papers act as the guide. And last 1 or 2 years, developments again related to the same themes, right? So today in the Hindu newspaper, there is a news that Chalukya inscription was found in a small village near Pandavpura in Karnataka, right? There is a small news. It's just a very small news. There is a name given to it. So the century given to it, right? So you just try to see what is the significance of the Pandavpura region in Chalukya history. Just like 2 minutes effort, right? So instead of just noting down what is there in the news, so try to think like examiners. So what is the prelims question I can frame based on this particular, right? So this effort, number 1. Second, daily practice of like 50 to 100 MCQs. How many MCQs you are doing every day? 20. So there's something given on the website. From PYQ, okay. Apart from that, how many PYQs you are doing every day? So I'll be very straightforward. Nowadays I'm very straightforward, right? So anybody who starts practicing after from January, you are going to fail in prelims. If you have that mindset, from January I will start doing MCQs, start solving, these mock test papers, right? You are psychologically you're just postponing the effort, the hard work part. You won't start in January actually. Majority people who say that they will start from January, then again it will be pushed to March because you still have pending optional to do, still have pending, answer writing to do. So that time will never come. If at all you have to do, because all the core batch practice you have done should not go waste. In every core session I say this. You people are mains ready, right? So for that you have to get that opportunity, you should clear prelims, right? So give your 2 to 3 hours every day specifically for prelims from today itself, right? Even after saying this, if you are making that mistake of, getting, it's okay to leave certain portion of optional, right? It's okay to leave out maybe ethics, for example. So after prelims, after, very confident attempt in prelims, confident of cracking prelims, you will still have 3.5 months, right? During that time, you can somehow compensate. So, but prelims, it is going to get tougher only. It is not going to get easier, tougher than the last year. So there is a specific demand why it is getting tougher. The world is getting challenging, so many uncertainties. They want people, strong people who can deal with that kind of uncertainty. And in a way, the nature of candidates getting selected is actually improving last 3-4 years since CSAT became tough. So don't get me wrong, but I am noticing actually. Because how I am noticing, because when the people come for mock interviews, right, the quality of people giving mock interviews is significantly improving compared to previous years. Earlier there was so much focus on rote learning, right? Now the rote learning component is getting reduced. People who can think, who can apply their mind, who can be smart, who can make quick decision making, who are not affected by uncertainty, sudden shock, right? So it actually has psychological testing component. So all this intended or unintended, it actually tests your attitude and personality also, the nature of papers, right? So if you have to be ready for that, you have to practice a lot, random questions. So prepare your mind to face the uncertainty, the sudden shocks, right? Any kind of shock. So any shocking news, any shocking paper, any shocking question, right? Shocking incident should not shock you, right? So that is a stoic. So there is a stoicism as in philosophy, right? Stone-like attitude. Basically, you call it equanimity, right? So that you have to develop. So we always expected things to happen, right? So we want certainty. We psychologically, when you are preparing, you are seeking certainty, right? So I am doing these many answer writing, so I am ready to answer any question if questions come from that part. While preparing, while reading, you should not think like that, right? There should be certain amount of randomness, chaos in the way you prepare. You're just preparing for uncertainty, right? So you should be able to randomly think of an answer, a very logical, coherent answer, even when you haven't read anything, right? So you have to prepare. Essay topics are specifically designed in this way because you cannot prepare for this topic. So all those who wander, what, are not lost. So what is the probability that you have actually picked that topic and prepared for it? Right? I mean, if your student of insight says the probability is high, the topic was given by Faris sir as part of his essay course. The exact topic was given. But visionary decision making happens at the intersection of intuition and logic, right? So you might have read about decision making, but now suddenly they are adding, there is a visionary decision making and it happens at the intersection of intuition and logic. But regarding intuition and logic, as I said earlier, philosophy and psychology. So there is so much content regarding that, right? So if you have read about what is intuition philosophically, psychologically, so this essay you can actually ace it. So very unlikely that you are prepared in that direction. Suddenly in the examination you are forced to pick a topic that actually seems easy for you, not that you are prepared on that topic. Earlier you would have prepared the section, another section you would have prepared women empowerment. But again, the topic is not straightforward women empowerment. Girls are weighed down by restrictions, boys with demands to equally harmful disciplines. Now, you haven't talked about, men empowerment, read about, so in a way more about women empowerment you read. Again, the topic says that even the men are equally victim, right? So suddenly you have to balance it out. You cannot write more on women empowerment in the essay, right? Even the mathematics optional guy wouldn't be knowing, mathematics. So like is the music of reason. Right. So like mathematics optional guy from IIT integrated MSc mathematics, having prepared 4 years mathematics optional, right? So music will be out. I mean, a society that has more justice is a society that needs less charity. I think most people would have taken this topic. It's an easy topic. Education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. I think this is a repeated topic somewhere. I remember it's a very famous quote. The education, Albert Einstein's. So earlier I talked about it, like when we were talking about thinking, the education, how it makes us. Yes. So coming to prelims, don't ignore, please. Okay. So what is the point of you people being constants here in the institution or in Bangalore, leaving aside all your highly paying jobs, lucrative offers. So you need people like me to come and like, so on your own you won't think like this. I mean, you will be thinking, it's a worrying thinking. You have prelims in your mind, but the thing is, very few people take very seriously when we say this. Still, you are on your own. You are too rational as an individual, right? You are preparing for IAS, no? Like you are too rational. You try to make your own decisions, right? Which is good, but again, a visionary decision making happens at the intersection of. So your intuition and our logic, you have to combine, right? So then only the visionary decision making will happen. So don't always follow your intuition, right? So apply logic. So here the logic is that there are negative consequences, right? And I'm seeing it like last 2 to 3 years. I'm seeing this, and so it's a very beautiful quote actually. So it applies in for everyone in every field, right? So do the practice, and CSAT doesn't matter how good you are, right? You have to do it. Both comprehension, don't depend only on one of the components. Luckily this year comprehension was easy, so some people have got through only by doing comprehension, but again next year we don't know, right? Better to be prepared for both the things. The beauty of UPSC journey and the mind of UPSC aspirant is that they know everything, like they know what exactly to do, right? They won't do it. Everyone, like whatever I told you, most of the things you know it, right? It is just like for some reasons you can't do or you won't do, right? Just apply it. When we were preparing, like 2006 to 2011, so there was nothing, right? No website, no one to come and talk, no classrooms, no such a big group doing answer writing, nothing. Imagine at that time Karnataka was like empty, right? So you would never find co-aspirant, or you would never know, like sitting in your village, how will you know that another human being is preparing somewhere in your vicinity or somewhere, right? No mock tests, nothing. So now you have everything, that could be a problem also, like, right? But if you can somehow, maintain certain distance in the sense that, from the negativity, and whatever positive that you can gain from, and channelize your and get a direction, it's a very easy thing to do. So Nandini Kya did it, when she was here. She used the same everyday test and all. So at that time, the thing was that the group used to be small and fiercely competitive, right? So find such people, like, somewhere you need to find 2 to 3 individuals who are better than you, right? So yesterday also I was telling interview group. So when you have group of 3-4 people, you tend to dominate. One tends to dominate, either in discussion or contribution. So you have to find a group who are better than you and keep asking them questions. Learn, right? Have you made any groups, like informally or formally? No. Optional wise, make groups optional wise, right? Do you want us to make groups? Like, it's already there, but dysfunctional. It's functioning. Okay, good. So discuss a lot. Ultimately, I think discussions will. So I remember this Nandini in 2016 was the highest. It peaked the results. Rank 1 we got, and then in top 100, nearly like 30 students were there, right? From all the core batch and other things. And after that, the English Kannada literature was targeted. That is, so many got selected from literature, and because of that, the ranks actually came down because of the targeting of literature, right? They were liberally giving 300, 310, 340. It came down to 260s and 270s, and then it started happening with other optionals, right? So now they are equalizing all the optionals. 250 to 280 is a kind of highest score in respective optional. So they used to discuss a lot. So all these people, after every test, they would like sit here, 4 or 5 people, make lots of nicely discuss, like very competitively. Search. I mean, you would have written some answers and then you would search internet for extra content and try to, find more examples. Don't depend on any kind of synopsis or discussion. So at that time it didn't exist actually. So no synopsis. I was not giving any synopsis or any. I used to be alone at that time. I would never give any discussion because it would take lots of time for me to prepare and come, so no discussion. So I would make them discuss. Refer standard books, discuss on your own, and they started finding out more content than they could do alone, individually, right? That actually helps. Similarly, the one idea I talked about, prelims thematic analysis, that also you can actually do through group discussion. So modern history, you pick up a theme one day, right? So all of you explore all the dimensions related to that. Maybe you can go through 2 to 3 Bipan Chandra spectrum and Placido partition. There is one book by Satish Bandopadhyay, Placido partition. That is also a good book. Like 1 or 2 chapters you can refer, not entire book. So search for some extra content and read. These 3 in addition to NCERT textbooks, right? So it's more often it is about not just the kind of efforts, right? So all of you are working hard, I'm sure about it, right? So in which direction, so is it giving you more confidence day after day? So are you feeling more powerful, after writing a test, after preparing for a test, after getting evaluated copy, after making group discussion, right? You should feel it inside that you're becoming more confident. So that kind of, channelized preparation is better than just, doing, like, don't chase the completion thing. So psychologically what we try to do is that we try to complete something, right? So you listen to this, what we try to do is we complete, we want to complete, right? In that race to complete, you forget about, the aspect of understanding, the aspect of internalizing the knowledge, right? The aspect of application of that particular knowledge. So we are under the pressure, like I have to complete this much at any cost by, tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So that creates, like you are individually preparing, right? So you won't depend on the group or you won't go for discussion. So that is what I meant by little chaos, right? Disorder in your preparation. Did not, what is the word I used? Um, Unorganized, little bit. That should be there. That is nothing but freedom actually, right? Bit of freedom in your preparation to go little here and there, right? Within the exam syllabus and previous year questions to explore now and then will actually free your mind. It will make you more creative. You'll find a way to solve a question better than you can actually think, right? So trying to complete something again is part of certainty, like, I want to be sure about, I want to complete this chapter. So that kind of preparation is not the necessity nowadays, what I believe, right? So that won't help you apply. Like, did you get this point? Were you able to relate? I don't know how many of you are able to relate to this. Did you relate? Can somebody like tell me like what did I just say? In addition to that, pick up a magazine, India Today. I'm like Frontline, The Week, right? Read one or two things from there also. Yesterday I was talking about EPW magazine, EPW, right? Read that also, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, one article, two article. You see the magic. It actually de-stresses you, right? Again, don't read them for gaining, picking up certain, exam related stuff. Read them for understanding, understanding and, empathizing with the issue you are reading about, right? Or maybe for further boosting your imagination, to take further course of action in future, like, as an IAS officer or something, right? So that kind of effort every day for half an hour, 1 hour will make you more creative and, helps you deal better with uncertainty. So when I was preparing, the exam was thoroughly rote learning one. There were two optionals. People would score 500, 600, 450 to 400 in two optional. There were two GS papers, right? And the questions are very straightforward. You check the GS question paper of 2005 or 6, right? You will laugh at it, right? Straightforward. This under science and technology, they would give 3D printing, just keyword, write 20 words about it, right? They would give you, some IRNA, the keyword, just write 20 words. Hubble telescope. They wouldn't ask, how the recent James Webb telescope is, different or, improved version of Hubble telescope, and, no. You can write anything, just 20 words. So people would memorize. The magazines used to be like that. People would memorize. And unfortunately, my thinking was what I'm actually telling you right now. So I used to prepare. I used to read EPW and other things. I didn't know. Nobody told me that, we had to memorize. I read the notification. I was under the impression the exam is like mother of all examinations. We have to be intellectual type. Read everything under the sun. So if I were preparing like that right now, I would have got easily top 10 rank right now. What I used to do at that time, I used to blog regularly. I used to write on my website. Nobody would tell. Every day I would write, like nearly 1,000 words content on the website. So I deleted all my personal articles, current affairs. I used to write extremely, right? I like bash Manmohan Singh like anything, right? For everything. If RTE comes, commentary on that. RTI commentary on Narega, series of articles on Narega, finding the loopholes and trying to. You would read EPW. EPW is about highlighting the shortcomings, not just praising the something, right? And it would stimulate your thinking. You would also read few articles and then start highlighting them. So I also wrote positive article like 2005 Indo-US nuclear deal, right? So I made an article, India needs that US nuclear deal. So that may be there in the internet. I think I did delete that. I'll just show you. I think I deleted it. Hmm? You found it? You found it? Acha, acha. What is the title I have given? I wrote the wrong spelling here. I'm not finding it. How did you find? What did you search? No, I had written in 2005 or 6, I think. Sorry, it is 2008. It's okay, like UPSC comes here. No, these people have blocked me here. Leave it. Yes. Yeah, in 2008 I had written by Vinay GB. No, just example like. So when I was preparing, so I would write articles on all these things. 2006 to 2011. So nobody had told me to write. Out of own interest, I would pick up a topic and start writing. So hundreds of articles I've actually deleted. So they used to be extreme, and you have that like rebel mindset. So while preparing, you see all the injustices and you feel like you want to rebel against all the injustices, right? So I used to be like that, and then established 9 years. This insights happened, and now again become a new rebel now. So no, I don't write articles. So people are writing about me now. So I went to a news channel, right? So we wanted to do some promotion. So they gave very costly rate to do my interview. I said, what is the way forward? You should become the news, they said. Okay. So that then I will do it, I said. You'll see me regularly after 4 5 months in news. Stimulus, thinking. So wish you all the best. Right. I don't know what you got from this session, but huh? So the point is, so all of you are really preparing good. It is just that so don't ignore the prelims. And for you, we are giving regular prelim test, right? So the no, we are not giving prelim test for you. Weekly prelim test. Hmm? Hmm. Prelims. Hmm. No, this is without evaluation core batch, right? Then what evaluation? Hmm. Hmm. So you don't have access to prelims. So you are not giving prelims papers. Huh? So I'll give online access, not offline. You can take printout and practice. So I'll give access to which test series you want, textbook based or textbook. It is there. For you it is there, but for majority you don't have. The textbook based will give. That is actually very good, right? From today you will get access to that. Ensure that you start taking the question papers and start practicing them, right? So now that is the takeaway from this session. So wish you all the best.